Hey everybody. I am just going to go ahead and describe the slides and then we'll get started. Good to see you all. And please introduce yourselves. Would love to know who all is here. So ASL interpretation today is by Interpreter Now, www.interpreter-now.com with Jonathan and Paulina, who are rotating on the screen today. This is a white background with the Interpreter Now logo and the red writing. We have a code of conduct: be kind, practice radical inclusion. We don't tolerate harassment in any form. Y'all are great about that, not worried about it. At ally.cc/COC. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Hey, Crystal, nice to see you too. This is Leading with Empathy and Allyship with Melinda, Briana, Epler, myself, and the logo along with a paint splash in the background, and myself with a coffee cup and a laptop, and then lots of diverse folks that have pictures of lots of diverse folks that have joined us over the last year and a half. My book, How to Be an Ally, is available at melindabrianaepler.com. This slide says it's the right thing to do. It's the just thing to do. Plus, it's good for business and it makes us all happier. All right, and this is season 5, ally.cc. And the hashtag is Allyship Podcast. And the slide has the same diverse faces of folks that have joined us over the last year and a half, and myself, and the logo with the paint splash. And lastly, the slide shows Melinda, Briana, Epler in conversation with Wayne Sutton. Has a photo of Wayne, who will describe himself in a moment. And again, the Change Catalyst logo, as well as the Leading with Empathy and Allyship logo over a black paint splash. And created by Change Catalyst, changecatalyst.co. All right, let's get started. So, hi everybody, good to see you, Giselle, Sarah, Erica, Peter, awesome, Gabrielle, Trisha, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for introducing yourselves, and thank you for the congrats too. I appreciate you. So welcome to Leading with Empathy and Allyship. Here we have deep, real conversations about how we can be more inclusive leaders in our workplaces and communities. I'm Melinda, Briana, Epler, your host and the founder of Change Catalyst, where we build inclusive innovation through training, consulting, coaching, and events. And this is a safe space to learn to lead the change, to build empathy for one another, understand tangible actions we can all take to build a better world for our colleagues, for our friends, neighbors, and ourselves as well. So this is episode 56, where I'll be in conversation with Wayne Sutton, who is my husband, also my co-founder at Change Catalyst, who's a great ally himself and also my best friend. He's also the founder of the Icon Project, which is focused on wellness and leadership development for Black and Brown men in tech. Today, we're going to have an honest conversation about mental health, our own interracial marriage, some motorcycle riding in there, and of course, we'll talk about allyship as well. And then Wayne is about to embark on a solo cross-country motorcycle ride to raise awareness for mental health and to raise funds for the Icon Project Fund. So we'll talk about that too. So hi, Wayne.
Hi, Melinda. Literally right around the corner.
He's right there. Yes, this is going to be fun. So, we do a few logistics. So first, describing ourselves for anybody who's blind or who's listening to the podcast. So Melinda, I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman with long red hair, black and white glasses, and I'm wearing a turquoise sleeveless shirt.
Cool. Wayne Sutton, black pecan brown man, black brown eyes, with glasses, black t-shirt, bald head.
Awesome.
He, him.
So our ASL interpreters for today are here and on screen, taking turns on screen. Thank you to Interpreter Now for our ongoing partnership. Appreciate you. And this is also being live captioned by Maggie at White Coat Captioning, which you can turn on the captions down at the bottom of your Zoom screen should say live transcript, I believe, and a little CC closed captioning sign. Our team is behind the scenes doing amazing things, making this happen. Renzo, Ariyah, Juliette, Christina, Emilie, thank you all. And they will be in the chat too. So if you have any technical issues or anything, please feel free to ask them questions in the chat and engage with us in the chat too. We'd love to hear what's resonating for you, what you want to learn more about. You can use the Q&A function as well. We'll definitely spend time with Q&A if you have questions. So yeah, I look forward to hearing you all throughout this conversation. So, Wayne, so we always start with telling your story, and I think it'd be great for people to learn more about you, where you grew up, and how you came to do the work that you do, and really focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also mental health.
First, thanks for having me. It's great that you're on episode 56. It's been awesome to see you do shows throughout the last year and a half during the pandemic. And also congrats again on the book that I have nicely displayed right in the background. So
nice.
Someone else said congrats on the book too. So yeah, well, the story, trying to see what version to give, short version, long version, medium version, but here we go. Okay. I used to start off saying I'm a geek, nerd, introvert, and I developed those skills unconsciously as I grew up in the South, North Carolina, small town called Chi-Chi, which in year 2000 had a population around 200. That's how small it was. Next closest town population around 50,000, I think. And growing up, I was into art. I used to draw, used to paint. Then I got into computers. My mom used to work for HUD, had a furlough, brought her computer home, continued to work, could have worked and be done back with Windows 3.1. I just gravitated towards it. And then I used to work with my father on working on go-karts and engines, things like that. So I was used to tinker. So at the intersection of all that growing up, art, computers, engine, racing, I eventually got into computer graphic design at a training school right out of high school, which is equivalent to a code school. And then from there, got into IT. Spent 4 years at a newspaper, first computer graphic design, then IT. So that was it really, my foray to like, okay, computers and networking and that whole world, infrastructure, IT. And kind of so my geek nerd cred, also my age, I used to go to people's houses with a floppy disk to connect them, help them get dial-up internet service. So that's showing my age there. But that's what I used to do. And so I was like part of that internet 1.0, like helping people get online and help create community and with forums and that, those ways back then. Then eventually, eventually moved to Raleigh State Capitol, worked at IT more, and just, fell in love with the internet, saw how it was connecting people, connecting humans, Web 1.0, Web 2.0 movement, and just was following everything that was happening in Silicon Valley, right? And then like people used to call Research Triangle Park, Raleigh-Durham area, Silicon Valley East. So I used to be jealous of everything that was happening in Silicon Valley, and I used to try to replicate that in North Carolina, whether it was tweet ups, whether it was conferences. I did the very first I did the very first social media conference at a historically Black college, North Carolina Central University, back maybe in 2009, right? So I was doing that back then. And I also one of the very first 1,000 Twitter users in 2000 when they started 2006. So all this time, I'm in the tech, I'm in it, IT, I'm in it, using the internet and helping people get online and early adopt social media. And in North Carolina, I will be the only Black person, or maybe one or two. I will host conferences, tweet ups, having 200 or 300 people out, and maybe 5 people be Black, be people of color, right? So I have these experiences, and you combine that with oppression and racism in the South, it got heavy real quick. And then the startup movement, after Web 2.0 started happening, the startup movement kicked in again in Raleigh. And I co-founded a startup with a colleague who ironically moved from Silicon Valley to North Carolina. And we co-founded a location-based app called Trout. It was like Foursquare and Swarm. And we tried to raise some angel, and then just, we couldn't do it, and then eventually, during that time frame, somewhere there, I joined a newspaper as well, a television station, and did some early blogging and so forth. And I'm gonna try to connect the dots here while this is relevant in a minute. I'm all over the place right now. But
okay.
So eventually I'm at a television station. Then I had a startup, get laid off from the television station because they were early to social, and nobody was believing in social media was gonna be a thing back then. And then I'll go back full time my startup. I launch a co-working space. That doesn't do well, but I'm an entrepreneur. I'm trying to do all these things. And then the data come out from CB Insights that only 1% of entrepreneurs who raise venture capital are Black and Latino. And that data was skewed because it's 2011. And here I am now being an entrepreneur, do my own thing, in North Carolina, have my racist experience, have people come to me, asking me to get them drinks at my own events that I was hosting, because I was the only Black person, a few Black person there. I had people, just say some rude stuff to me, right? Just things like that. And when that data came out 2011, I'm like, I want to change that data. I want to change the number of underrepresented people in venture capital and eventually underrepresented people in tech. And so I partnered with some colleagues, and we decided to create an incubator accelerator and moved to Silicon Valley in 2011. And we got featured in a CNN documentary by Soledad O'Brien called Silicon Valley New Promised Land. It was a Black in America show. So eventually 2012, I moved to San Francisco and quickly realized the tech industry was not ready to work on diversity, equity, inclusion. Wouldn't even say diversity was a bad word. Mm-hmm. And at the time we were trying to bring awareness to lack of Black people, Black and brown people in tech. Everybody was talking about tech is a meritocracy. How dare you come out here trying to change things? And that is a level playing field. And this was 2011, and then I moved in 2012 in San Francisco, and just realized, I hit a rock bottom spot in 2012 because I realized that the tech industry wasn't ready to talk about diversity and inclusion. And it was just hard fought, it was like, yeah. It's like blacklisting yourself. I'm gonna pause right there.
Yeah. So then from there, there's a couple of years in there before we met. So it was from 2012 to 2014. You kept working on startups, right?
Yeah. So eventually 2012, I leave the Accelerator Incubator that I co-founded, and I joined a startup that was too early. It was about like Eventbrite it was like a new version of Eventbrite. Kind of was everybody launching now, but back then. Raised some angel, didn't do well, we closed that. Then I worked with some friends, do some food tech hackathons. Then I realized my passion was still around helping underrepresented founders. And so I tried to raise a venture fund in 2013, failed at that. I learned a lot, for underrepresented founders. And then also I did, create a nonprofit called Build Up, and we did a fellows program, we did a pre-accelerator. We helped 5 out of 6 companies either raise $1 million or go into other incubators and accelerators, which was the goal. And then, but also in 2012, I hit rock bottom. I went through a serious episode of depression. I was told not to write about it, not to share. I was a heavy blogger. I didn't talk about it. I used to blog a lot. I was told not to write about depression, don't share what I'm going through, don't write about imposter syndrome. And I was hurting. And I was in therapy every week, and from 2012 to 2013, and nobody knew. It was like, don't talk about it. My coaches, my mentors, my friends are about don't share. You get even more blacklisted because you used to talk about diversity. So I kept that quiet for a while. And then in 2014, 2 things happened that changed my life. One, I met Melinda in February 8, 2014. And 2, the tech industry released their diversity numbers, and I knew they was working on it. And I was in, people who started reaching out was like, "Oh, who's that? Who's that black guy talking about diversity back there? That was in that CNN document." So people started contacting me for quotes and articles, and we started going to these roundtables, and then companies released the diversity numbers, and then everybody had data, because before everybody was saying tech is meritocracy, and that was talking about entrepreneurship, VC, much less the workforce. We knew there wasn't a lot of black people or underrepresented people in tech. We knew the number was low, but in tech industry, like, we need data. So 2014 released the numbers, and it was bad. Like, it was really worse than what people thought it was going to be from the major tech companies. And that changed everything. And then we started changing Callus and Tech Inclusion Conference.
Yeah. So we've been working on tech inclusion and bringing that, really driving diversity, equity, inclusion in the tech industry through our tech inclusion events, and also through training and consulting and coaching. And then I think, Icon, we did the first Icon Summit in the fall of 2019 to really focus on mental health and professional development for Black and brown men. And can you talk about why that shift, and why focus on mental health?
Yeah. So the shift was one, throughout the years, the shift happened because there was moments where I was hurting. And it was hurting, not say like hurting emotionally, right? You're marriage is fine, good and stuff, but it's like the things of the world, right? It's like hurting emotionally because you want to change. In the tech industry, you're hurting emotionally because of life. I do have a 10-year-old son that when I went through that rock bottom time, he's in North Carolina with his mom, hurting because I miss him, hurting because the state of the tech industry is not as diverse and inclusive as likely to be, hurting because I knew I wasn't alone that was hurt, right? And I knew that other, people, particularly Black and brown men, were experiencing shame of being vulnerable, or didn't know how to be vulnerable, or were hurting also, but didn't have a community. And so over the years, I partnered with some other colleagues, and we created a Slack group, and it now has about 1,000 Black and brown men in there. And we would share some of our stories. And then when I would talk with other, Black and brown men in tech and have some very close friends, you hear their stories. And I knew that I wanted to, just like we did with Tech Inclusion. Hey, Anthony, just like we did with Tech Inclusion, was focus on solutions, was to focus on, also community. I wanted to create an experience that would help provide a safe space for people who look like me, who could learn about vulnerability, who could have a shame-free experience, could talk about wellness, mental health, emotional intelligence, physical health, and learn with like-minded colleagues in an environment for growth where they haven't necessarily experienced before. Do it, a little bit different. And that was one of the reasons why that we, the shift on the Icon project. In 2019, when we first did it, I was afraid myself to talk about mental health still. Even though I wrote some articles about it, I didn't want to core folks around mental health because there's still this shame around talking about it. And so we did the summit in 2019 in New York at Instagram headquarters. We had 300 plus Black and brown men there, about 30 speakers. We had the Icon, Dapper Dan there, the keynote. Anthony was there. We had John Henry was there, was speaking. A lot of great colleagues, Black and brown men sharing stories from their first time meeting their fathers to raising capital to being engineering leaders to designers. And it was one of the most proudest events that I've ever done in my life. And we've done over hundreds of events. It was the proudest event because it was a vulnerable space for Black and brown men in 2019 before we knew the world was going to change.
Yeah. And I remember the first time we even had a panel Tech Inclusion with all Black men on the panel. That was a really powerful time too. That just doesn't happen. Didn't happen then. Yeah, maybe it happens a little bit more now, but it was powerful for Black men in the audience and also for anybody in the audience to see that. I've talked about this subject some. If anybody wants to go back and listen to episode 25 with Dr. Kevin Simon, we talked about understanding the effects of racism on Black boys and men. Great episode. We went deep in that episode, and also with Dr. Angel Costa in episode 14 some as well. One of the privileges of being in an interracial relationship is that Wayne and I share a lot. I get to learn a lot about his experiences as a Black man. And one of those, I think, is really important to touch on. We'll circle back on our marriage a little bit more later, but is what I learned is that the incredible stigma in the Black community around mental health, specifically Black men. You want to talk about that a little bit? Like, what is that? What is, I mean, you kind of grazed the surface a little bit, but what is that? What's going on?
Yeah. And I don't want, so speaking like this is how it is for every Black person, or this is how it is for the entire Black community. But my experience as a Black man, growing up, it was, it was talking about the Mandingo, right? We're talking about being Mandingo, right? Like that's what people want. That's what people want, like a strong Black man, right? That's the stereotype of the bias. We talk about that in the Black community. Talk about, whether it's going to work, you deal with it. You deal with it. You get your job done, right? There's no complaint. You just deal with it, and or you're weak if you cry, or your mother's boy, things like that, or be soft, right? These are all things, we all heard, like I heard growing up, as stereotypes and biases towards, me as a Black man. And then there's the fact that because of the oppression in this country in particular, there's reasons also why it's saying that you need to be hard, you need to be strong, you need to be always strong, you need to always be tough, you need to never let your guard down because of oppression or racism. Because if you're vulnerable at some aspect, people can take advantage of you or be physically harmful to you. And so you combine all of that, oppression, stereotype, biases, what's happening in music, TV, the shame that comes with any type of person who's not, strong all the time. Black men strong all the time. For me, it's when you say that, okay, you struggle with mental health or you deal with depression, it's like something's wrong, right? Something's wrong with you, right? It's like a weakness, right? That's some of the bias and stereotypes some people have. And it's like you say, well, mental health, or often what happens, and we talk about this, Melinda, with racism and biases in general, that it's not me, it's them. Because when you can say mental health, what happens with the other person is their relationship with what mental health means and comes to their mind if they're not aware of the broad range of what saying mental health means, right? They're when you say mental health, for some people, it could mean someone with a physical mental health, that you see on the outside, or it could mean someone that, we know movies portray a lot of people mental health within a psych ward, with the vest on, and that's what images come to their mind. So that's their own biases projecting on you. So you combine all that with being a Black person, being a Black man, and you say you got mental health and struggles in the community, and people, it's like something's wrong with you, just go get help. And you add, there's some religion plays a role in it also. It's like, well, just go pray about it or seek a higher power or things like that. And for some that can help, but often there could be a mental, physical, neurological, I think something right,
Yeah. Yeah.
situation in your brain where you need someone to talk to or other resources. And in the
Yeah.
Black community, that hasn't been a normalized thing to communicate and talk about. It's being shamed upon. So that's
Mm.
some of the things that you're about.
Yeah, we were watching Sex Education last night, and I can't remember the character's name. He's a Black gay man, and
Eric.
Eric, thank you, Eric. He was a victim of a hate crime. Came home, his dad. The first thing he said was, "Well, if you're going to live that lifestyle, you got to toughen up." Right? It says we see it in the stories all the time. Is kind of reinforced, and then I will also say that. Somebody in the chat, Shelley, mentioned generational trauma, intergenerational trauma, I think is a part of that too, and the kind of coping that can happen. Actually, Michael Thomas also talked about this a little bit, and how you have to break that cycle in order to really heal from the trauma, and it does take courage to kind of break out of that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think about also for me, it's like I'm more self-aware now of my relationship and lack thereof with my father. We don't talk all the time. We don't text all the time, but I know he's there, and he raised me, him and my mom did the best job they could, but we didn't communicate our feelings growing up. Like our quality time was, our love language was quality time. Was like, working on go-karts. His love language was like, were teaching me his best ability how to play basketball as a kid, or building engines together, or taking transmissions out, or helping farm, or building a go-kart track. For he did those things for me because he loved it. But it wasn't a communicate, I love you, or hug, or how am I feeling type relationship. And that's how I am. Even though I do love those things, as well. But my brain need that communication. And he's 2 generations away from slavery, right? And we're 11 brothers and sisters. And so he did the best he could. And so and as you talk about Michael Thomas, and I inherently have some generational trauma from his experience, from growing up Jim Crow and that era, pre-Jim Crow era, and the oppression living in the South as a Black man. And then you combine, and so I know with Micah, my son, he's on the East Coast, and I talk to him, ask him how he's feeling. So it's okay to share your feelings. And we didn't have that type of relationship growing up.
Yeah. So, can you just say a little bit about, let's talk about, maybe here's a question. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place in my head. We can talk about so many things. What would you say to yourself 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the version of yourself? Because there's a lot of men out there now who are experiencing that same feeling of maybe feeling shame around seeking therapy, or feeling like something is wrong with them when they experience depression or anxiety. What would you say to them? Something now.
Yeah, good question. Yeah. And I'm working on some talks, so I'm going to talk for some companies and all that. So some of that is not coming up. Because what I go back to normally is asking myself why, right? So 10 years ago, I'm coming up on making the decision. No, I'm actually in Mountain View right now, 10 years ago. I'm working on Accelerator, and I'm dealing with a lot of shit. I'm not sure if we cuss on the show, but I'm dealing with a lot of shit.
Yep.
And I'm depressed. I'm going through a divorce. My son is 1. I'm at a new company that a co-founder that I'm about to be cut out of, and I have TV crew following me around. that's going to be displayed on a document, around, a TV show around the world. And I'm just trying to get by mentally. So 10 years ago, I asked myself, why am I doing this? Why am I sad? And what am I going to do about it? And because the why is, I think, it's like the why helps you get present in the moment, like what's going on, like ask yourself, like, why? And there's also questions your choice, your thinking, are you in a good state of mind? Like, why is this happening? Helps you take responsibility of like, well, what am I in control of? What am I not in control of? And then it goes to what can I do about it? What can I change? What is in my power to change? And then if I can't change it now, how can I make a plan to change it in the future? And then how can I set myself up for success? But also, I would try to like answer the question, like with the why. I'll also ask the question, am I okay? And I kind of always go back to that even today. Like, am I okay? Am I okay mentally? Am I okay physically? Do I need help? Right. So I would ask myself that, 10 years ago today. And then ask the question, who do I need to share with? Who I need to talk to? Who I need to ask? Was ask for help? Who I need to talk to for help or advice? Who I need to share with? Because as humans, my therapist, helped me understand, like, as humans, we're supposed to be part of communities, and we're not meant to hold things in, right? And so, who do I need to share with what's happening in my life? So I would ask those questions 10 years ago.
And how can allies better show up in those situations? How can allies show up for you now, but also back then? I mean, how could allies have shown up for you?
Yeah. Looking back, I had an ally, and I didn't know he was an ally. I wouldn't call him an ally, but he was an ally. I had a couple, but this one particular was an ally to me. And this is something that, you wrote the book on allyship. It's something, we talk about all the time. It's like, it's like ally can be anyone, right? And so an ally for me, my assumption, my own bias is that ally, when I think of an ally, people could think that, oh, it has to be someone who doesn't look like me. But actually, in this case, 10 years ago, an ally was Hank Williams. He's no longer with us, rest in peace. But he was he's a Black man in tech that did it, raised $40 million before it was cool and all that. And he was my ally in that situation, giving me advice and mentoring me and asking me, am I okay? Right. And so he was my ally back then. But allies can show up for people who we don't know are struggling with mental health, or just you want to just check in on people. They could just be having a bad day. So it's literally just asking, like, how are you really doing? Is there anything I can do to help? Is there anyone I can connect you with? Do you need an ear to talk to? Do you need a hug? Well, before COVID, but do you need a hug? Mask on a mask on, but do you need a hug? Right? Do I need to call someone for you? How can I advocate on your behalf? Like, it's simple. It's like the D9 work we did over the years. It's not that hard. Just be a good human sometimes. Just gotta
show up with empathy.
Yeah. And so, but that comes with a lot of self-awareness of your own self, and then look, trying to make a good assumption with empathy, like you said, for others.
And I think it's also challenging our own biases. We all are shaped by the media and how Black men are portrayed, Black and brown men are portrayed. So we all have to challenge those biases that we might learn inside our heads to get over those, move past those, and challenge them as well when we see them. So, okay, I'm going to switch subjects to motorcycle riding. How does this relate to mental health? And maybe actually, why don't you say what you're going to do first? Talk about the cross country trip.
Coming up, I believe next week. Things have got pushed around a little bit. My therapist has said prepare for mayhem, but
Ma'am, yeah.
mayhem, and mayhem has happened. So leaving next week to go on a solo cross country trip and back on a motorcycle to North Carolina to see my son and family, and then ride back. And it's a ride to raise awareness for mental health for the Icon Project and Icon Therapy Fund, and also for my own mental health. There's some places I want to go. I've never been to the Grand Canyon, so I want to go through there if it's not too cold. But just also want to take this time to reflect and share, the journey and advocate for mental health.
So talk a little bit more about how mental health intersects with motorcycle riding.
You know this answer. You
I do know the answer very intimately, and I feel it too.
Yeah. But I mean, I think about it, just gives me joy, right? Just smile. I perk up, a smile while I'm motorcycle riding. Hopefully my body, hangs in there to continue to do it. But with everything I've had to endure as a human, and we have endured as a human as the past year and a half during this pandemic, I'm an introvert. I've learned that I struggle with ADHD. I'm hypersensitive. Excuse me, this could be triggering for anyone. Apologies. I'm hypersensitive. Deal with dyslexia. So I deal with a lot mentally. It's just who I am. And I'm always thinking. It's hard to turn off. Like my brain is always thinking, trying to solve a problem, just thinking. And when you get on a motorcycle, you have to focus so much. And it's freeing, and your mind is freeing from all the distractions, from all the wildness in the world, from all the things that you wish you could change but you can't, right? The pain you experience as a kid or as an adult, or walking down the street sometimes when someone does something inappropriate to you, some good or bad, some image you've seen that may upset, or you deal with your own things you need to fix, pride, jealousy. When we get on a motorcycle and you ride and you're going to see the sunset, or you ride through the desert and you see the mountains, or you ride over the Golden Gate Bridge, you're like, never in my life as a child, I would have thought that I would be living in San Francisco, married to Melinda, riding over a motorcycle over a Golden Gate Bridge with a headset talking to each other, right? Never in my life I would have thought that would have happened. And so motorcycle riding just is mental freedom. And it's just, you have to be in the moment to live and survive. And it's a sense of peace that joy gives me.
Yeah, I feel that. And actually, I would say that it's brought us closer together some too, literally talking into each other's ears, because we have headsets for hours and hours as we go on these motorcycle rides and through peaceful, beautiful, we're so lucky to be in this Bay Area with so many beautiful places to go visit, the coast, the vineyards, the mountains. We have just this amazing area to explore, and we do it together. And sometimes we'll spend a whole day together over the weekend too. So let's talk about interracial marriage. We get asked about this a lot, and I think people make assumptions a lot too, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that as well. And I will say that when we first started dating, we did not announce it right away, and I think it was you more than me that was a little bit resistant to that, to announcing it. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I was nervous as hell. To be honest, I grew up in the South, right? I mentioned that number 4 in North Carolina, and so I'm very aware of like the bias and stereotype of interracial marriage. I heard the saying growing up in high school, like don't bring a non-Black person girl home, right? I heard that, and we've seen that on TV. I don't want to misquote my parents, And maybe like, you lying, why you lying? I'm not sure if they actually told, I'm not sure my parents actually told me that. So I take that back.
You heard it in your community.
I've heard it in my community. I'm not sure my parents actually told me that. I know I heard it.
I would say it was, they were a little skeptical. Every family was a little skeptical at first.
I know my parents said, don't bring that girl here, but I'm not sure if it was related to race. So it could be just a different situation. Keep it real. So we heard the stereotype from like interracial couples and so forth, and how it can be, looked down on in the community, especially Black man, white woman. And, and over the years, like Melinda and I, are both on our second marriage. And I have never dated a white woman before, like never. And so I went through a separation 1 year, a divorce, and then I moved to San Francisco 2012. And then, I had a relationship, one time, after that, and I was pretty much not dating anyone for about a whole year. I was working on my mental health therapy, getting in shape. Then I met Melinda in 2014, and then we started dating. And it was like, once you go Facebook, it was, this Instagram was on, but once you put it on Facebook, it's real, right? Mm-hmm. And so I put it on Facebook. It was a photo of us, and we had that picture on a bookshelf, and I was nervous. And
he was so nervous.
Okay. And it's unfortunate because,
yeah,
I'm aware of the stereotypes, right? Mm-hmm. But also aware the stereotype goes both ways, right? There's a lot of other interracial couples that it's okay, right? I'm not gonna say anything, but it's okay. But it's, I'm aware of it, and it sucks. Mm-hmm. I know where I was at mentally when we met. I wanted a good human. I wanted to fall in love with a good human who had empathy, and I didn't care what color they looked like, Mm-hmm. Melinda happened to show up at we said a coffee shop, and we met, fell in love, and the rest is history. And that really should be all that matters.
Mm-hmm. It should. And I will say that for those of you all who are not in interracial relationships, that it comes with a lot of benefits. And we've had some really amazing conversations, and I've learned so much. And speaking of allyship, I've definitely learned how to be a better ally because of our relationship. And it can be really hard. I mean, people assume that we want separate checks. People assume that we're not together, and like you get on a subway and they'll just divide you. They'll go in between you. There's just like a lot of little things and a lot of little ways that you can feel it. I mean, I remember when we first went to Paris, we traveled to Paris, I think the second year that we were dating, and we were sitting in a restaurant a few days in, and I said, something is different. It feels different here. There isn't that like little bit of friction here like there is in the US. And of course, we're in the West Coast. It's different, much more friction in the South than in the West Coast, but it's still here. It's still palpable. And we didn't really realize it until we left and went somewhere where it wasn't so much. So
yeah. Go ahead.
You want to say anything more?
No.
Okay. We have a bunch of questions. I want to jump to questions. Let's see. All right. Since we just talked about our relationship, let's go with Michael, our friend Michael's question, or maybe a sort of a statement. Maybe we don't have to react to it. It says you could teach a lot of us about how to truly communicate in a healthy, empathy-first relationship. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Michael. So Anthony Ware asks, what do you think it will take to make more than incremental change in terms of the relationship of mental health and mental illness in Black men?
Oh, great question, Anthony. Great question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not advocating on any rapper, who they are, what they've done, but Meek Mill did a tweet a couple months ago. He was like, how can we make mental health cool in the Black community? And I agree with that question. And I believe that's the case. And I think it's happening some. but like to me, it's like that's it. Like we need everyone to talk about mental health, and I think that's how we remove it from the community. That remove the stigma from talking about it. We don't need just rappers. We don't need athletes. Like we had DeMar DeRozan in the NBA, one of the first people to talk about it. Then Kevin Love came, but we need athletes, we need the rappers, but we also need other community leaders, people who like we need religious leaders talking about mental health, right? Or we need Anthony, where you continue doing the work you're doing around mental wellness, right? People in tech. It needs to be also something that in the workforce more advocated for among managers and executives, right? Because we all experience burnout. When I was talking about burnout last night, right? And I don't get how we have all these smart people in tech. And when I came out here in 2012, the big movement was mindfulness and wellness, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole thing about mindfulness and wellness was about being able to like perform and be productive at work. So if we want the best people to do a great job, you should ask your teammates, your employees, how are they doing mentally in a legal way, of course, so they can show up and be a good human to work with other people and be productive. So I think all those things, I think what it takes to like to remove this stigma in the Black community and in all communities around mental health. But we have to make it more of we have to make it cool. We have to make it where it's like it's okay to ask and it's okay to take your time and continue to provide resources.
Yeah, cool. So I'm reading through some of the comments, and there's a lot of them. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. Crystal says, when I was married to a Black man from Cleveland. I never met his family in person. I wasn't accepted by everyone in his family. After making a decision to divorce, those not accepting finally wanted to reach out. It's funny how things work out. Different parts of the country have different reactions, especially to my kids. Yeah. Crystal, so go ahead. Were you going to say something? Crystal says, Seattle is a super diverse community. It's nice to finally see mixed couples and ads. Yeah, I grew up in Seattle, and there are definitely parts of Seattle that are more diverse and are parts of Seattle that aren't. And getting to the, I may be pronouncing your name wrong. If I am, apologies. Gayak, am I saying your name right? I think in response to my comment about Paris, says, no, it does not feel genuine. It seems someone says, let's make up for the past and display every couple only from different races. I've noticed for a while. It seems bizarre. I'm not sure if that was in relation to Crystal's comment or mine about Paris, but I will say that every place has its own issues around race. Nobody's got it all figured out. And there are varying degrees, what I've experienced just in terms of our interracial relationship that, we go to the South, we have one experience. South of the US, we have one experience. We go to Australia, we have another experience. We go to the West, Northwest, we have a different experience. And go to London or Paris and different as well. And there are different histories in each of those regions that play a role in how people see each other, how people interact with each other. I
would say just looking back, like, and think about, just if we think about America, it's like, I am working on my own empathy towards people and locations and around like where I am biased towards with my own negative experience. Like, I grew up in the South. I had a lot of negative experience. I want to have negative experience. I want to have grace. I want to have empathy. I want to forgive. But it's hard. Even with parents or in-laws, like it's hard. But like, something I had to learn with my own parents is like, I had to work on giving them grace and forgive them because I know that they are, most of my young life, they did the best they could with what education and experience they had. And think about my parents and a lot of our parents. They're pre-internet generation. So a lot of them doing the best they could with a got. But I do question like one underlying line that I heard growing up throughout the world. And I kind of wonder what the hell happened to it. And it was a saying of treat people like you want to be treated. It was a basic saying. And like, what happened to that with fighting against racism or exclusion? What happened? So that's all.
Oh, I have myself on mute. Yeah. So many great comments in the chat. Thank you all for sharing your experiences and your thoughts. It's really powerful. Okay, we have one more question I think we can get to here from Larissa. Have you found good supportive spaces for neurodivergent people who are also Black or BIPOC folks? One of my family is looking for this. She's a woman, or I'd send her the Icon Project. As a white Jewish autistic woman, I've been searching but have not found it. So maybe if you know any for Black women, Wayne, and then I can answer the.
Oh, wait a minute. I do. I'm trying to find it real quick. A day in New York. Anthony, in the chat, you may, if you're still here, you may remember this, but it's a community in New York. I can find it. 1 second.
While you're looking, I'll answer the other question, which is not specifically for Black or BIPOC folks, but run by an Asian woman. Diversability is a good community, and you might find members of that community who are doing other things that may be more specific. So that's maybe somebody on the team can look it up. I think it's diversability.org. Tiffany Yu runs it. She's amazing. And she actually may know the answer to this question. And Wayne says, look at healhouse.com, HAUS.com, HEALHAUS.com, mydiversibility.com. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, we'll check out Hill House. And what I'm seeing is that different communities, different groups, entrepreneurial groups, programs, whether it's for women in tech or people of color in tech, they are now adding mental health and wellness programs to their educational experiences or their community experiences. And so again, going back to the stigma, I feel like there's still a huge stigma around, oh, we have a mental health program, mental wellness program, things of that nature. So I think we're going to see more of the add-on versus a sole program around mental health and mental illness.
Yeah. So where can people follow your ride and learn more about the Icon Project and support the Icon Project? Allies support the Icon Project?
Yes. So I should have had a URL, the website up by now, but it's not. Let me get my bike ready. But for now, you can go to the iconproject.org, and soon there'll be a link called the Icon Ride. And when that's there, you can follow the ride in real time, see where I'm at via GPS tracker, and we post photos on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter. And so I'm nervous and I'm scared, but I'm also excited. So it's going to be a fun adventure.
Mm-hmm. I'm nervous and excited too for you to be out there all by yourself. But you'll be meeting community along the way, and I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah. That's one thing. If there's one question that I've been receiving when I tell people about the ride relevant to this conversation, is about like, are you scared because you're a Black man in 2021 and we dealing with all this things happening in this country last year, and we know there's been situations, and it's one thing, like we've been seeing some of the shows we've been watching, when it's like we can't let fear block us, And that's kind of where I'm at, you know, like in life, we're dealing with deal with a lot of stuff. We're doing this D&I work for so long, and I'm not gonna let fear hold me back, you know. And that's, but also, like my therapist said, prepare for mayhem and hope for the best, plan for the worst. So that's why I have a GPS tracker. I have a set device, and people can follow me real time. So you want to be a good ally? Of course, you can donate, support the cause, and you also can check on me. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, so before everybody leaves, I have an announcement. Speaking of mental health, the team and I have been doing these weekly live episodes for a year and a half together, producing this live event and then also the podcast and the video. And we realized we're running ourselves out a bit. So we're going to switch it up. So our live shows are going to switch to monthly. So every first Tuesday of the month. So our next episode will be at the same time, same place, Tuesday, November 2nd, and then the following one will be Tuesday, December 7th. And then we'll still be releasing weekly videos and podcasts. Those will just be pre-recorded, not recorded live. So you can find them on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on our website, ally.cc. And we've appreciated you being here each week and look forward to seeing you monthly instead. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast so you don't miss an episode. Wayne, thank you for this awesome discussion. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
And it sounds like everybody else has as well. Great questions. Thanks everybody for all of your questions. Yeah. So we'll see you here Tuesday, November 2nd. And meanwhile on YouTube or the podcast, and have a fantastic month, everyone. And I'm going to let you all chat because there's some great chats here. Appreciate you all. Yeah, we'll miss you too. You're welcome. And thanks to you all for continuing to do this work. All right. Bye, everybody.